Welcome back to the South Stands, a Buckeye football podcast by Ohio State fans, for Ohio State fans. From the West Coast, I'm your host, Zach Moore. Today is Thursday, September 5th, 2024, and I'm very happy to be joined once again by fellow South Stands contributor, Paige Van Horn from Denver. PVH, how's it going, my friend?
It's good, buddy. It's good. It's happy to talk with you and excited for another week of Buckeye football, man.
Good to hear your voice, my friend. We are also pleased to be joined by our man on the ground in Cleveland, Chad Plummer. CP, what's the word from the 216?
What the fuck is up, boys? The 216 is all good. It's a nice, it's almost like laying it through that fall football weather. It's like 70, 69, 70 degrees. The sunset's coming over the lake. And you know what? I'm just super stoked about, it's like New Year. Happy New Year, guys. It's college football. Happy New Year. Let's go.
This is my favorite time of year. My favorite time of year, hands down.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, look, the first full weekend of the 2024 college football season is in the books. The Buckeyes were 52-6 winners last Saturday against Akron. And we're going to take a few minutes to look back at that game. We're also going to preview Ohio State's next opponent, the Western Michigan Broncos, who will invade the Horseshoe this Saturday night. Finally, fellas, I want to leave a few minutes at the end to have a look at that colossal Texas-Michigan matchup in the Big House. And then I think Oregon actually has a tricky game against Boise State on Saturday night that's also worth diving into. But first, let's have a quick look back at the Buckeyes' 52-6 season-opening victory over the Akron Zips. And Paige, I actually want to start with you because I know you have some strong feelings about how the Buckeyes played in that game. I believe your grade for the Buckeyes' performance in that game was an F-. So go ahead, my friend.
Scary Paige.
Go ahead, my friend. The floor is yours.
Well, okay. I mean, come on. You got to be accurate. My grade for that game was a fucking F-. So there's really no, parsing words here. So get it straight. And so I'm gonna go off on a little bit of a tangent here. It's so much that I actually wrote down some notes.
Oh, okay.
So, which I normally don't do, but for this, because I've thought about it, and after listening to you and reading about it, and sleeping on it, Mikey Corcoran. I still came up with the same grade, which is F fucking minus. So let me tell you why. So this is about, I think, our collective expectations for this team against a 50-point underdog in Akron. It's not an indictment on the whole season. It's not about what may or may not happen. But what I honestly think is an honest assessment of that game and that game only. So I stand by my assessment as much as I thought about it all week. And should I not actually, say it was an F grade? But you know what? We'll go with the old Ohio State pass-fail here. I mean, you're either getting it done or you're not. So I have a few points to make. So point number one, which drives me crazy, is that if you're going to make excuses for Ohio State and just say, hey, it's the first game, and hey, they're rusty, and hey, this, and hey, that. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't that Akron's first game also?
It was.
Right? They were 0-0 as much as Ohio State. So that is just a tired old excuse that we've heard over and over and over. I'm going to just keep going, and then you guys can address these as
all right.
when I'm done. I have 5 points. The second point, there isn't a single player on Akron's squad that would even play for Ohio State. And in addition to that, they were down their fucking starting quarterback. They were playing their second and third string quarterback for the majority of that game.
That's a good point.
That's just insane. Point number 3, we had 14 points by the defense and 3 total turnovers. And yes, that's awesome. That's great. You can't depend on that for every single game. So basically, the offense scored 38 points against Akron, 17-6 at halftime. Mm-hmm. That's a joke. It's fucking terrible. Point number 4, the play calling. Chip Kelly, dude, we're not paying you for that. That was uninspiring. It had no creativity. It was the same old retread shit we've seen before. And that offensive line, is somewhere still between just mediocre and dreadful. And I seem to recall, and I won't say names, of course, but I think someone on this podcast predicted 350 rushing yards from an Ohio State team. That wasn't even close to happening. So again, offensive line, I don't know where we go with that. Yeah. And I know they had a starter out. We can talk about that in a minute. And then my last point is, it drives me crazy about the whataboutism. It's like, well, hey, guess what? Oregon had a tough game, or the Michigan score was misleading going into the fourth quarter. I don't give a shit, right? And guess what? Our score was very misleading as well, right? I mean, if we don't put 14 points on the board in the second half by the defense, I think we dropped from second to eighth, just like Oregon did. So I didn't watch those other games. I was watching our team, and basically they did not look good. I give you that the defense looks good, but the offense, man, clunky is just scratching the surface of how they look. Georgia, another team, right? It's like you can say, well, Oregon didn't look good or Michigan didn't look good. Guess who did fucking look good? Georgia. They rolled a top 10 opponent as usual, as they're supposed to do. Texas won 52-0. Mississippi and Alabama put up goose eggs against terrible frickin' teams. So, in conclusion, I just don't know how you come away from this game just, scratching your head and saying, what the hell? This is not what we expected, especially with all the expectations, and it's all about excuses, right? Guys are young. Guys are hurt. Hey, the weather was lousy. It was cold. It was windy. They ran out of vodka. It doesn't matter. They always have excuses. We're going to get better. We have some things to work out. You had all offseason to work this stuff out, Ryan. Figure it out. You have two assistants on your team that are making over $2 million a year. It's not acceptable against Akron. Again, just against Akron. So I think you take all those things together. And the last point I would make is, dude, if you looked at Ohio State's two deep, I'll bet you 75% of those guys end up playing in the NFL. And they've just got to be better. So I just feel like against that inferior opponent and all the excuse making and all the we're going to look at this glass half full versus glass half empty is ridiculous. Call it for what it was. It was a stink bomb. And anything other than that, in my opinion, is just putting lipstick on that pig. And I'm done.
All right. CP, would you care to weigh in?
I do. Honestly, Gonzi, I don't even really know what to say. I feel like there's I'm having a hard time breathing, and if I had an albuterol inhaler, I would probably hit it real quick because I'm just taken back. I feel like we're in the sixth game of the season, man, and shit's just not gone our way, and so fuck. Let's call in the fucking let's pull down the curtains, man. We're done.
Hey, and again, I preempted this saying I'm not projecting about what this team can or could be, but I'm just saying if you have any other conclusion for that game against Akron, I think you're kidding yourself. You are.
Well, I mean,
did they do well other than the defense? I'll give you that. The defense played well, but again, they're playing against a third string quarterback.
Well, I'll tell you what, dude. I don't give a fuck whose defense it is. Will Howard's got a fucking arm, dude. The kid put some fucking dimes in there. It's I was excited about that. I'm gonna ride on that one. A running game. Our number one offensive lineman, Jonathan Jackson. So you know what? That came out a little bit slow, but then it proceeded and the defense, Caleb Downs, obviously, which we talked about, some tacks. Missed a few tackles. That kid's not going to miss any tackles like that the rest of the year. They were just overhyped, man. They're just you know what I mean? They should have just taken a deep breath before they came out of the tunnel because they were just amped way too big. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna take a deep breath. I'm fine. You know what I mean? And like you said, historically, which is not my favorite thing. I'm not a big fan, but we start out slow the last 3 to 4 years, D, you alluded to?
Yeah, I think the last four season openers have been very slow starts with slim leads at the half, or they were actually trailing. Yeah.
And to your point, Paige, I'm with you as well, dude. I get it. It's Akron. But there are a few players on that Akron team that I think could play at Ohio State. Not that I, could name any of them, but I'm just like, I'm not ready to, I'm not ready to like sell, like, sell off my stake in the,
No, and to be clear, I'm not either. But I was just like,
I know.
wow, that was coming out with a gigantic thud, in my opinion, regardless of what they did in the second half. And I give the defense credit, but those are anomalies to me, man. You can't expect a defense to put up 14. You can expect them to, get off the field on third down, but when you're putting up 14 points and 3 total turnovers and you only score 36 points, I'm just sorry. It's not good enough against Akron. Anyways, okay. So I'm going to stop.
Right.
I'm going to take off my negative hat.
I love it. I love that
my
you
guns of what I felt during that game and on this podcast. Zach, I'd love your on some of these.
Sure.
I want to refer back to one of Paige's points, and then before we kick it over to you, because I know you've got the 4-1-1 that you're going to spit out of here like Eminem here shortly. But I will say this is going back to the Chip Kelly comment. He's not going to come out the first game of the year and just start pulling all the fucking rabbits out of the hat. You know what I mean? He's it's Akron, man. He's just getting acclimated to what's going on. By no means, that is one of the probably the least things that I'm worried about is Chip Kelly and his play calling. We're not going to be I don't think we're going to be scratching our heads in the middle of the season, why did he run that play with Chip, down in October, late October, November. But, yes, there was some questionable play calling, but you know what I mean? He's easing in, man. He's he's getting into the wave pool, he's going to get his feet wet first, and he's going to go back out of the deep end. But that's the least thing I'm worried about.
Long term, again, I'd be inclined to give him sort of a mulligan, because obviously he's skilled, he knows what he's doing. But it's just another thing where I was just Jesus, our first possession was 3 and out, and anyway. Okay, I'm done.
One more thing, real quick, Z. So my parents were in town. Gary and Kathy, they came up for the Buckeyes game.
Hey, good to
surprise visit. Hey, what's up? Shout out to Gary and Kathy. What up? So my father's he's like you, Paige. The entire time, he's shaking his head, fucking, God damn it, what is this and that? And my mother, she's even going, oh, they just don't look that good, Chad Andrew. I'm like, oh my God, it's the first. I'm like, come on, guys, just chill out. Normally, I'm like, listen, it's the first quarter, guys. Okay, we're gonna be okay. We look a little rough, but you guys need to chill out. And I feel there's too many just everybody's on that expectations. That's where it all stems from. Mm-hmm. But you know what I mean? Hey, I don't give 2 shits about how we look right now. What I care about is October and November. But yeah, I can agree with some of Paige's points, and I can disagree with some of them.
Of course.
You know what? We won the game, and I love it when Paige gets all fired up, man. I just kind of get But anyways, all right, Z. Sorry, man. I just wanted to get that out there. Garrett, I feel too many people are too quick to be negative.
Yeah, I mean, but look, Paige, I'm not going to disagree with you about the start of that game, and I think on the post game pod on Sunday, I called that first drive the football equivalent of a dry fart. Although that wide receiver screen to Jeremiah Smith was schemed up really nicely, and he had a convoy ahead of him. He probably would have scored, but he just dropped the ball, and I don't know if he just chalked that up to freshman jitters or whatever. But no, look, the offensive line play was disappointing. And I also quoted Bill Landis, part of his column on Sunday, where he had said, look, it might be the struggles they had in the offensive line, I'm kind of paraphrasing, he said, might be forgivable if they weren't so familiar. And they spent all off season talking about how we want to run it more, we want to run it better, we've been working on this. And what we saw, I think in the first half of the game, they got better as the game wore on. I think primarily the first quarter was a lot of the same shit that we saw last year. It was very disappointing. My grade for the first half was a D. My grade for the second half was an A. I mean, I think there were definitely elements of the performance that were A level. Jeremiah Smith, Lathan Ransom was fantastic. The defense as a whole was great. I think Will Howard was really really, really, really good for a debut. I don't know if I'd give him an A, but it was, very encouraging. We saw a lot of really, great stuff from Howard. But I'm not going to disagree with you. I was very disappointed with the way they came out. And it's now the fourth year in a row that Ryan Day's team has come out of fall camp in a season opener and lollygagged and dicked around in the first half of a game and found himself either with a slim lead going into half against the overmatched opponent, or in several other instances, Minnesota season opener in 2021, they were actually losing that game. There is one other observation I wanted to make on the rewatch. I actually rewatched the game on Sunday that I want to underscore here. I mentioned a little bit in the post-game pod, but I do want to underscore it here. Now, this is a stat from the Ohio State Athletics website. Last season, Ohio State had a grand total of 75 punt return yards for the season. 75 punt return yards. Last Saturday against Akron, Brandon Inniss had 60 punt return yards. He almost reached Ohio State's season total from a year ago in one game. We think in just two games, Inniss all by himself is likely to pass last season's total in punt return yardage. I mentioned this, on Sunday. I thought Inniss's 36-yard punt return in the third quarter really gave the Buckeyes a much-needed spark to pull them out of that malaise they were in for 2.5 quarters. Now, to your point, Paige, like they shouldn't have needed the damn spark, but it turned out that they did.
It is what it is.
I also wonder, CP, what you were saying about expectations. I wonder if this team was feeling expectations a little bit, right? Because they had been talking
Perhaps.
about national championship or bust, that sort of thing. There might have been some nerves. But I want to go back to the Inniss punt return on the 36-yarder in the third quarter that gave the Buckeyes that much-needed spark.
Rad, dude.
It was beautiful. Now, if it were last season's special teams in that situation, that punt probably pins Ohio State inside their 5-yard line, and that malaise continues. Instead, Inniss returns it to the Ohio State 40. The crowd's back into the game, and after that play, the Buckeyes scored 2 touchdowns within the span of 70 seconds. And I don't think that was a coincidence. And also, I'm pretty sure that was the first legitimate spark provided by Ohio State special teams since Lathan Ransom's punt block in the 2022 Maryland game. So it has been a very long walk through the desert for the Ohio State special teams. One other point I want to make on this. Earlier this week, Ryan Day said they did a study this offseason that showed punts that hit the ground usually cost you an additional 10 yards of field position. First of all, I think any of us could have fucking told him that. I mean, how did they not already know that? And why do you need a study to reveal that information? Yeah. And I thought those comments by Day were pretty revealing in that the program has really been dismissive of the importance of the return game, especially in punt returns. Now, I'm glad it's finally being addressed, but this is another area among several others where the last 3 seasons, Ryan Day just wasn't devoting enough resources, despite having the means in skill, talent, and an open checkbook to hire whoever he wants to do his coaching staff. When you're competing at the highest level with championship aspirations, you're going to have to win games in November and December that are decided in the margins, and special teams is how you do that. So that's one other observation from the game. Much improved in the punt return game. And I'd give Brandon Inniss a solid A for his efforts there as well. So, PBH, let me kick this back to you.
Very close to breaking that first one, brother.
Yeah,
he's very close to breaking that first one.
You get the sense he's going to do
it. He was like, yep.
I saw somebody
it's going to happen this year.
I saw somebody on Twitter compare him to Jalen Marshall. I think that's a really good facsimile.
Oh,
they remind me of each other.
That's nice. Yeah. I like that.
PVH, any other remarks on the performance against Akron you want to share?
Yeah, and come on, at some level I'm being sarcastic and facetious, and there was amazing individual effort. Inniss for sure was one. Jack Sawyer almost killed that
poor quarterback. Jesus.
I looked at some highlights and I was like, holy cow, man. He wasn't getting sacks, but he was making people pay. There were good individual efforts. I just expected more.
Yep.
Collectively from that game, and it pissed me off in the moment, and so I ran with that rage that is behind us.
Oh,
you're entitled, my friend.
So far away.
So far away.
Ran so far away. Yeah.
All right, fellas, listen, I know we're a little pressed for time. CP, anything else you want to share about that game before we move on?
No, man. I think we're good. I'm excited. It's all good. I'm not fretting whatsoever.
Okay, good. One last thing. Arvell Reese, guys, It looks like we got ourselves a middle linebacker. I get Ryan Shazier vibes watching that kid, and it looks like
he's not going to lose the job.
Well, so Arvell Reese he doesn't currently have a starting job.
That's what I'm saying, though. Is he going to take somebody's job?
I mean, I think he's too good to keep off the field. I think they're going to rotate him in, and he'll play meaningful snaps throughout the whole season, I think.
You can't keep that kid off the field.
Yeah. Maybe Cody Simon is going to be the man at the mic when he comes back from whatever's bothering him. And it sounds like also that from what Ryan Day said during his press conference yesterday, that he's still day-to-day, along with Donovan Jackson, by the way. So I think we might see a lot of Arvell Reese in this game. But to me, he looks good enough right now to play meaningful snaps throughout the season. I mean, not just in these tune-up games. I mean, I think he could make an impact against the Iowas and Oregons of the world as well.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy we didn't even talk about those two being out until I didn't even realize that until like Saturday morning when you sent that out, Z.
Yeah, nobody did. It was a surprise.
No idea it was even a possibility.
Yeah. Well, one thing that never ends is just the cloak and dagger of people that are hurt. And you know what? It's not an issue of national security. If Cody Simon is like, why can't you just say it? God, it's not like Akron's going to throw out the scripted first 15 plays if Cody Simon isn't playing. I don't understand.
Well, they got plenty of depth.
In the middle, Cody Simon's not playing.
they got plenty of depth at linebacker. I'm not worried about that. The Donovan Jackson injury, I'm just crossing my fingers that isn't something that's going to linger for a long time. Now, the coaching staff, which I don't believe a fucking word that comes out of Ryan Day's mouth about injuries. They're saying he's day to day, and if they were playing Michigan tomorrow, he could play, but we'll see. Offensive line is one area that they do not have a lot of depth, and they can ill afford to lose a first team All Big Ten left guard. So I'm hoping he will be ready when the games really start to count. All right, fellas, let's turn our attention to this weekend. The Western Michigan Broncos of the MAC visit the Horseshoe this Saturday night. Paige, you got to love the timing of that game.
Love it. So happy. That puts a smile on my face. The negativity is gone.
All right.
So what network is that game on?
So the game is a 7:30 p.m. Eastern kick on the Big Ten Network. The line is Ohio State -38. The over-under is 54.5. Now, this will be just the second time these two schools have met on the gridiron. The first time they played was back in 2015, and a young guy by the name of PJ Fleck was the Western Michigan head coach at the time. Fleck, of course, is the head man at Minnesota now, as we know. The Buckeyes won that game 38-12. Second-year head coach Lance Taylor will lead the Broncos into the Horseshoe on Saturday night. Now, according to Phil Steele, Taylor returns 17 starters, 9 on offense and 8 on defense, from a team that finished 4-8 and in 4th place in the MAC West. The Broncos finished 2023 ranked 80th nationally in total offense and 86th in total defense. Phil Steele had the Broncos rated 104th in his preseason power poll. Athlon had the Broncos 108th in their preseason rankings. Lindy's has them at 111th. So slight step up in competition, but from Akron, but maybe not too much. Now, Western Michigan is coming off a very competitive 28-14 season-opening loss at Wisconsin last Saturday. The Broncos actually held a 14-13 fourth-quarter lead over the Badgers. You want to talk about an F-minus performance. The Badgers. I actually watched a little bit of that game. Western Michigan executed a perfect fake field goal to set up the go-ahead touchdown at the start of the fourth quarter. Their defense actually forced a Wisconsin punt on the next possession, but the ball glanced off one of the Western Michigan blockers during the return. Wisconsin falls on it at the Western Michigan 20-yard line, and that sets up a quick and easy touchdown to get them the lead back. They tack on another score late to seal the game. But Western Michigan made that game very uncomfortable for Wisconsin fans. And I think now that the fact that was a 4-quarter game now has Ohio State's attention, I think. So I think it's a good thing. And also the fact that it was a 4-quarter game might tell us more about Wisconsin than it does Western Michigan. We'll see. And it might be a long season up there for Luke Fickell.
Poor Luke.
How about Dave-O?
Oh, yeah. We'll get into that in a second.
He just
A couple tidbits here on the Western Michigan roster. Then I'm going to kick it over to you guys for a couple of thoughts. The Western Michigan offense is led by senior quarterback Hayden Wolf. Wolf is in his second season with the Broncos. He spent the first 3 seasons of his college career at Old Dominion before transferring to Western Michigan last year. At 6'5", 235 pounds, Wolf is he has a career completion percentage of 60.6 with 38 touchdown passes and 22 INTs. But I think the player to watch on the Bronco offense is running back Jalen Buckley. He's actually a pretty good player. He ran for over 1,000 yards last year and 10 touchdowns. He averaged about 5 yards a carry in 2023 for Western Michigan, and he scored both of their touchdowns against Wisconsin last week. I think he's definitely their best player. On defense, keep your eye on 2 players. Senior linebacker Donald Willis. He's the Minnesota transfer. Willis is actually an Ohio native from Garfield Heights. He tied for the team leading tackles last week against Wisconsin with 10. He was also their top graded defender in that game, according to PFF. They also have a good cornerback in Bill Hall Kone. He had 10 tackles also against Wisconsin and finished with a very, very solid PFF grade of 75 in that game. So, CP, I'm going to start with you. Give me a few thoughts on this game with Western Michigan.
I mean, RD comes out and says, I'd love to have a mistake-free game. We didn't really, we
didn't see that last week.
Touch on that too much, but, because there was a lot of stupid mistakes and that, some penalties that should have, again, going back to where I said they're amped up, but, they just need to, get all that shit out. It's going to be the first night game and, in the shoe of the year of some of these kids, not play Caleb Downs. I think they're going to step up, man. Mm-hmm. I think they blow them out, dude. I don't think this. We're not going to run into an Akron Paige flamethrower, or we're not going to run into the Akron deal, or they're going to step up.
You think there'll be more juice because it's night?
Out.
Okay.
They're going to be more focused. I think they were just too amped up, man. And I feel like they're going to all settle in, regardless of Donovan Jackson. And I think it's going to be I know we're going to do a prediction, but it will be
You're feeling good.
Okay on Sunday.
You're feeling good. Okay.
I'm feeling good.
All right, PVH, give me a couple thoughts on this game.
Yeah, well, if we're not feeling, and if nobody's not feeling good, it's like we're, okay, I'm not even going to say it. Yeah, no, and iron out the kinks, guys. Come on. So whatever excuse we wanted to pick from last weekend, let's just make sure it doesn't happen again this weekend. I thought the defense was just keep doing what you're doing. Mm-hmm. You hold a team, to 6 points, not scoring a touchdown, some turnovers, which is great, right? They were aggressive, and I'll take the aggressiveness every day of the week and, give up some plays. Maybe establish a little bit more of a consistent running game, which they talk about ad nauseum. So that would be good to see. And on the fun side, right, Smith and Tate and, Ibuka, good luck stopping those guys. Yeah. And Will Howard, just, keep getting more comfortable. I think, a night game, I think the atmosphere will be awesome. It's hilarious. I actually had to write down Western Michigan because I thought we were playing Western Kentucky. I guess they're one and the same, but maybe not. They're different schools.
That's what we played last year.
I know, but how have we never played Western Michigan before, except for one time?
Just once, 2015.
That is so bizarre to me. I was like, okay. But yeah, it's not much to be concerned about. It's still just preseason. And keep getting better, I guess, is what my overarching, thought would be.
All right. Yeah, I do think Western Michigan is going to be a step up in competition. This is an experienced team with 17 returning starters. I think you have to respect how they played last Saturday on the road against a quality Big Ten opponent. But, look, this is not a very explosive offense. Last year the Broncos were 109th nationally in scrimmage plays with 20-plus yards. So it's a good bet that they'll attempt to lean on their running game with Jalen Buckley, try to burn clock, shorten the game, keep away from the Ohio State offense. I'd be stunned if that's not going to be the game plan here for Western Michigan. So I think the Ohio State defense is going to have to strike that balance between, not allowing WMU to kind of sit on the ball, take the air out of the stadium, take the, drain clock, and leaving themselves vulnerable to cheap scores on trick plays by, committing too many men to the line of scrimmage to stop that run game. I thought they did a better job of that in the opener. I think last year, we've talked about this, Jim Knowles overcorrected a little bit by not taking enough risks, or he was not as aggressive as he could have been, and that led to some of these games against overmatched opponents, kind of the opponent kind of draining the clock on him. The Buckeye offense is going to have to take advantage of big play opportunities in this game. If we look back to last week, right? If Jeremiah Smith doesn't drop that ball in the first play from scrimmage against the Zips, he probably takes that to the house. And I actually think the first half probably goes much differently for the Buckeyes if they score on that play and get the stadium in a frenzy right out of the gates. So obviously, you got to take advantage of those big play opportunities when you get them, and you got to take care of the football and avoid turnovers. That's also a must in this game. Turnovers are obviously a great equalizer in a mismatch like this. The Western Michigan defense was not very impactful in forcing turnovers last season. It's not something that comes natural to them. They were 72nd nationally with only 17 takeaways last year. All right, CP, any other thoughts on this game before we move to score predictions?
See, I have a quick thought. I just want to make sure, because I feel like that you're on the same page with me, same print, that Will Howard, no turnovers.
Yep.
I feel like he had some dimes in there to, Carnell Tate, you know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to Will Howard, and once we get Donovan Jackson back,
Yeah.
I just need your how you doing? I'm good with Will Howard because Paige.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm
Sour Patch Kid, Will Howard.
I'm right there with you. I mean, I said this on the post game pod on Sunday that he demonstrated, at least to me, that he could make all the throws. I mean, he had the deep throw to Jeremiah Smith. He had the back shoulder fade on the first touchdown to Smith, the slant to Smith for the touchdown, several throws that he made on the run when he was flushed out of the pocket. He had a really nice one to Emeka Egbuka that went for about 20 yards to keep the chains moving.
That was nice.
And then the one thing that really got me all hot and bothered was that 19-yard scramble when he broke out of the pocket. And he punished the safety at the end of that, too. That kid tried to stick his nose in there, and he went flying. So
put his head down, dude. That's good to see, man. That kid looks like he's if you look at him in the face when he's warming up, he looks like he's like 17 years old, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. All right, well, PVH, I'm going to kick this over to you. Why don't you get us started with score predictions, and then CP will go to you.
50-6.
50? All right.
50-6. No touchdowns. They're gonna play better. I'm confident of that. And night game, the place should be rocking, should be fun atmosphere. So let's get it done, Buckeyes.
All right, yeah, more juice. I think I agree with you at night than a noon kick last week. How about you, CP?
Although you're on the record and you're absolutely correct. Night games, we kind of lay eggs against bigger opponents. We don't normally get night games against lesser opponents. But it's an interesting sort of,
Yeah, sometimes the opponent gets more juice out of the night environment in the shoe than we do. CP, how about you? Give us a score prediction.
I think everybody's going to be at the outer end, VC, and a couple of those other Blackwell for mid-second quarter. I think we blow them out. I'm going to go I'm going to keep it in the 50s. I'm going to go 52-3.
52-3. Okay. All right. Wow, that's real simple. That would be real close to last week's score. Last week on our preview pod, I talked about the slow starts for the Buckeyes over the last 3 seasons and how they tend to lollygag in these week 2 games, actually. They did it last year in the first half against Youngstown State. Same deal in 2022 against Arkansas State. But I think Ohio State is going to buck that trend in this game. I actually have score prediction isn't quite as dramatic, I think, as yours. Ohio State 45, WMU 6. I look for a better performance out of the Ohio State running game on Saturday. Last Saturday, I thought the offensive line, as I mentioned, got better as the game went along. And I think they'll be better out of the gates in this game. I certainly hope so. And I expect, of course, Will Howard to look for Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Egbuka, Carnell Tate early and often in this game. I have the Buckeyes covering.
Ennis takes one back.
And Ennis takes one back. Okay, I like that prediction. I have the Buckeyes covering. They don't quite hit the over. All right, fellas.
Paige.
Let's keep rolling here. I know we're pressed for time. There's two other games I want to have a look at before I let you go. Let's start with the colossal matchup between number 3 Texas and number 10 Michigan in the Big House. Now, this is a noon Eastern kick on Fox PBH. I know you're not going to like the timing here, but nice little appetizer to get us started. The line in this game opened at Texas -4, but has since moved to the Longhorns -7.5. PBH, you pointed this out over our text thread today. The over-under is 42.5. The Longhorns are coming off a 52-zip blowout of Colorado State. The Wolverines are coming off a 30-10 home victory over Fresno State that was much closer than the final score would suggest. As is well documented by now, Michigan has serious questions at quarterback. Walk-on Davis Warren got the majority of the snaps against Fresno State. He was just okay. 15-25 for 118 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Alex Orji also saw some action, but really only as a change of pace quarterback. Only 2 pass attempts for Orji. He was used like he was last season, primarily as a runner against Fresno State. Michigan defense, though, still championship level, I think, and I expect they'll keep Michigan in this game. CP, I'm going to kick this to you. Who do you like in this game?
This is my lock of the week for our listeners out there, and I'm on fire right now. Take Michigan. They're going to cover that spread. I don't know if they win the game, but they're going to cover that.
Well, who's going to win it?
Come down.
Who's going to win
it? I'm going to say Texas is going to win it by a field goal.
Okay. All right.
But Michigan will cover.
Okay. All right. That's a reasonable pick. PBH, how about you?
No shot. Texas is going to kick their ass. Michigan's not that good. We all know it. And by the way, we have the de facto. I mean, dude, and you're going against literally your boyfriend?
I know, dude. Mullet.
The mullet.
Oh, my God, dude. You'd leave the Cougar in a second for viewers. Like, if you were saying you were ringing the mail, you'd be in Austin faster than fucking flights
You're
on
damn
shit.
right. I'd be drinking bourbon with McConaughey, dude. Like,
yeah, you and Matthew
yeah.
and Quinn, you'd be like,
dude.
on 6th Street, giving each other hand jobs.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot believe you like
Michigan. Open mic
Michigan.
night, playing music. I know, dude.
God.
Like, I'm going against what I usually like. I always pick against Michigan. But I'm telling you, Texas got this big, fucking balloon head on their top of their fucking shoulders, and they're
dude, Texas
coming
is
in
pretty
there.
good, by the way. They were in the playoff
they're
last
really good.
year. So,
Dude,
and
good.
by the way,
are.
Sarkisian's a pretty good coach, and this is I love Texas. I thought the 6-point line was stupid, or 6.5, and it's gone up. Just
how many times those Texas coming into a big stadium like that?
I don't care, dude. I don't.
Well,
I don't
last year against Alabama, they went into Tuscaloosa and put it on Bama
totally.
by two scores.
That's not like
smoke
that.
it.
That's not like the big. That's not 105,000 people.
Yeah.
It's different.
Alabama's not hard to win on the road.
I'm just saying, man.
It's only the greatest
I don't
fucking
really
program
give
in the last 2 decades. You moron.
All right, so PBH,
whatever,
you have some real conviction here. Actually,
fuck that elephant.
Your pick right now reminds me of your Georgia Clemson pick last week, where you had conviction on that when you turned out to be right, and now you got me rethinking my pick. But fuck it, I'm going to throw it out there anyway. I know Michigan is currently on a 29-game regular season win streak. They have not lost in the Big House since 2020, but I think both of those streaks come to an end on Saturday. But I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk for the Longhorns. That Michigan defense is going to keep the Wolverines in it until the very end, but I don't think that a rebuilding Michigan offense is going to be able to generate enough points to win this one. I like Quinn Ewers in Texas, but in a close one, I don't think they cover. But PBH, now you have me rethinking it. But that's the pick I'm going to go with.
This is the first game when the wheels start coming off. The wheels start coming off.
I love it. Yeah, they get USC in a couple weeks. By the way, USC.
USC look legit.
They looked legit against LSU. And by the way, the Big Ten now looks like a total bitch to win. I mean, this is not going to be a cakewalk for whoever comes out of it. I mean, if USC is going to have a defense. Hell, they looked a hell of a lot more scary to me than Oregon did. That's for sure.
Yeah. You know who looked fucking amazing last weekend, by the way? Amazing. Jimmy Tressel. Did you see that picture of Jimmy T on the side? Dude, I want to like be on whatever regiment that dude is on. Dude, he's yoked now.
Is he really? No,
oh my God,
I
you
missed
didn't
it.
see that?
No.
No, I didn't see it either, man.
Oh, you got to find the photo. Somebody like pointed it out, and I was like, God damn, Jimmy, like that, you're looking good.
That's
You didn't have the sweater vest on.
fantastic. He did it?
No.
That's what I was just getting ready to ask you. Like, was
No,
he
he was
fucking
at the
rocking
shoe,
the
man.
vest?
Dude, he's yoked. He looked really, really good.
I love
That is
it.
awesome.
JT, well, he's been spending a lot of
JT.
time around the program now, and he's been advising Ryan Day on things like special teams and that sort of thing. So we could see Jim Tressel's
Gee,
influence in the return game
You
in
talk
the
about
opener.
you mentioned the Big Ten, Z. I'll tell you what. Nebraska could be 7-0 when they come into the shoe.
I know. We talked
That
about this.
Rayola's like he's the real deal. He's like they could be 7-0 coming into the shoe. Like I love it.
They got a fun game also on Saturday at Colorado, I believe, right? It's at Colorado.
I hope they spank the Buffalo.
Or is it in
No,
Lincoln?
I think it's in Lincoln, the Colorado Deons. Yeah, that'll be fun.
Okay.
Actually, that'll be a really good game. I think
Yeah.
it's a night game. It's the same time as ours, though.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that's another game. I'm not sure, it has national title implications, but it's highly entertaining for sure. All right,
entertaining.
one more game I want to have a look at before I let you guys go. The Boise State Broncos visit number 7, Oregon. Now, this is a 10 p.m. Eastern kick on Peacock. The line is Oregon minus 19.5. The over-under is 61.5. Vegas thinks there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game. Now, Oregon is 0-3 all time against Boise State. The Ducks have not beaten the Broncos ever. Now, Oregon is coming off an unimpressive 24-14 win over Idaho of the FCS, adjusted for sack yardage. And I mentioned this last Sunday. The Vandals held the Oregon rushing attack to 3.8 yards per carry. And last season, Oregon was second nationally in scrimmage plays at 30-plus yards, but last Saturday against an FCS defense, they did not have a single play over 30 yards. The Oregon offensive line also had a little trouble protecting Dylan Gabriel in that game. The Vandals sacked Gabriel 3 times. As a result, the Ducks dropped 3 spots in the AP poll to number 7. Now, Boise is coming off a 56-45 road win over Georgia Southern. The Broncos have one of the best running backs in the country, Ashton Genty, who ran for 267 yards and 6 touchdowns last Saturday. Genty ran for 1,200 yards and 14 touchdowns last season. Now, Phil Steele has Boise number 39 in his preseason power poll. He thinks they're going to be pretty good. They returned 17 starters. In Steele, he considers them a legitimate playoff contender because remember, guys, one group of 5 champion will get one of those playoff spots. A lot of people think Boise's going to be that team. So PVH, I want to remind our listeners of something that you said when we looked at the schedule 6 weeks ago. You said you thought Oregon would drop a game before they would play Ohio State. This could very well be the spot. I mean, after watching them struggle last week, I certainly don't think I can rule that out. So, PVH, why don't I start with you on this one? Who do you like in this game?
So I did say that. And again, I just pulled up their schedule as you were kind of doing your preamble. I didn't think it would be this game because next weekend they play their rival.
Oregon State, that's right, on the road.
Yeah, on the road. And then, dude, they have to go to UCLA. That is a tough slate.
Yeah.
God damn, I could see them losing 2 of those maybe. But
wow.
Man, I think they get it done this weekend. What's the line?
So the line is 61.5. Oh, sorry, 19.5. Oregon minus 19.5. Over under 61.5.
Yeah, I wouldn't lay those points. I do think they get it done this weekend. I'm going to stick to my earlier prediction that they drop next weekend against Oregon State. But, yeah, that'll be a fun game. God, 10 o'clock start. That's crazy, but awesome.
Pace yourself, my friend.
Man, they could easily. But, again, maybe we could make a lot of excuses for why Oregon didn't play so well last weekend and they right the ship this week. But we'll, be fun to find out. I'll take Oregon, but they don't cover.
Okay. CP, how about you?
I'm gonna take those blue field motherfuckers.
Yeah, but they're not playing on a blue field.
They're playing at
I know
Oregon.
they're not, but you know what? They're gonna come in there and they're gonna all that green shit and Phil 9 shit. They're gonna we're blue. They cover the 19.5. I think it's gonna be close through the third quarter, and then Boise State pulls it out. Oregon pulls it out fourth quarter, wins by 14, 17.
Okay.
I'll take Boise State, baby.
All right.
I'll take the Broncos.
All right, sorry. So you're taking the Broncos to win or to cover?
To cover.
Oh, to cover. But you like the Ducks to win.
We don't want Oregon to lose, man. Like, I want them to be
true.
undefeated. Like, no, they're going to cover.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I think Oregon at home under the lights with the benefit of surviving that scare last week will play much better in this game. I do think they'll get their first ever win over the Broncos, but like you guys, I don't think they'll cover. And I think Boise gives them a run for their money, and I might even be inclined to bet the over. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game.
That's like a major factor there, man. Like, they've never beaten Boise. Like, that's
0-3.
crazy. There's something to like be said, like to factor into like your thinking on that, like who you're going to take on that game. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, fellas, look, that's a solid effort for a Thursday night. Why don't we end things there? For our listeners, check your feeds on Sunday afternoon for a recap of the Western Michigan game from yours truly. Until then, thanks so much for listening, and go Bucks. You've been listening to The South Stands, a Buckeye football podcast. Follow us on X at South_stands.